friends, it's Teresa and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be me doing the Folklore book tag, and I don't think I was tagged to do this book tag, but I really like Folklore and I have at least like an hour a day where I just replay a couple songs from the album and stare off into space like I have recently lost a love or something. But yeah, there are a total of 16 questions, I want to say. Did I remember? Yes. 16 questions, and I'm pretty excited to get into it. I tried to choose like a mix of like books I talk about and books I don't really talk about. So the first question that the tag has is the one, which is one of my favorite songs on that album, and that is A Couple You Don't Agree With. Now, I went through my list of couples. I went through Selena and Mal, and somehow they did not make this cut. But Kale and Selena from Throne of Glass definitely made this cut. Now, if you guys don't know what Throne of Glass is, it's this pretty popular YA high fantasy series following Selena Sardothian, who was recently freed from the slave camps of Endovir, only to be put back into a, what do you call those? A champion's kind of battle in order to gain her actual freedom after she serves the king for like 3 years. I really did not like Selena and Kale. I didn't. I had issues with Kale. Like, I enjoyed Kale in this first book. Like, I didn't enjoy him. I thought he was okay. I was like, I can't wait to see how he's developed. I can't wait to see how he and Selena develop as, like, friends. Primarily because I really shipped Selena and Dorian. For reasons because his name is Dorian. He has dark hair and blue eyes. And he likes to read. Does he sound like anyone else that we know about that I absolutely adore? But I didn't like Selena and Kale when they happened just because I feel like their personalities just did not work out very well. But somehow Selena chose Kale. And then it got progressively worse in the second book. So I don't like them together. Anytime someone starts to read the series for the first time and ship them, I'm like, I'm temporarily no longer your friend until you get to the third book and see the light. Because the light is all we need. The next question is Cardigan, a book that you loved but the ending disappointed you. For that book, I ended up choosing Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. Now, I thought this book was written really well. I really enjoyed the first book, but it was really cliche and I didn't like the ending, primarily because the aforementioned couple in the first question ended up together, and I was like, not about that, fam, just not about it. I did like this book, I just did not like the ending. And I feel like this is the case with some Sarah J. Maas books, or two series that she does have. You typically don't like the first book, and then like the second book throws you in, and then we go from there. But like, you typically don't like the first one. I haven't read the book, reread the books in a hot minute, maybe like, I want to say 2-3 years, but I just did not like this ending. I don't remember exactly why. But I think I remember telling a friend at the time that I just did not want to continue on with the series because I just did not like the ending so much. And she told me to persevere and just read the second book and then make up my mind. The third question is the last great American dynasty. Blah blah blah. And that is a villain you can't help but love. Now, should this really come as a surprise? Because if y'all have been following my channel for the past, maybe 6 months, almost a year, you know that I went through and read all of the Grishaverse books that are currently available, with the exception of, I think, one book. And there was one particular character that I absolutely adore, even though I should not, and that is the Darkling from the Shadow and Bone series. Now, Shadow and Bone is about this young girl named Alina, who ends up finding out that she's not a normal human, but one of the Grisha, who are these people who have magic, abilities and talents, and she is then thrown into the world of the Grisha and is forced to become a soldier. The Darkling is the villain, and I have a love-hate relationship with him because he's such a shitty person. He just becomes shittier and shittier as the books progress. However, you do learn about him in a way that doesn't really make you feel bad per se, but it gets you in some kind of understanding of where he was coming from and what his plans were with the Grisha, that eventually ended up in him losing his way and going absolutely power mad. It was a good idea at the time, and then it just went awry. Unlike what Alina did, where she basically threw them into a civil war, and then when everything was said and done, she just left them all to figure out their shit because she wanted to be a school teacher. So really, who was worse in this situation? Alina, the self-proclaimed protagonist, or the Darkling, who just wanted to keep his people safe because they were basically being enslaved? The next question is exile, and that is your favorite dark, hard-hitting contemporary. Now, I wasn't sure exactly the parameters of what a dark, hard-hitting contemporary is, so I just kind of went with my darker contemporaries, and I ended up choosing More Happy Than Not by Adam Silvera. I recently mentioned this in my last video, and I mentioned this book quite a bit, so I'm going to try to stop doing that in the coming videos, but we all know me. This follows this young boy named Aaron Soto who is currently struggling after the death of his father, or rather his father's suicide. Again, trigger warnings for suicide, homophobia, physical assault, and I want to say depression. And he's just trying to be happy. He thinks he's happy with his girlfriend, Genevieve, I believe her name is. And then he meets Thomas, and he kind of starts to learn things about himself and about Thomas that he's not really sure about. On top of that, there's this thing called the Liteo Institute that kind of is an undercurrent throughout this book, where this very scientifically advanced institute can somehow go in and take out a specific memories of a person, and that, or like modify said memory. So like say your cat died and you've been really depressed, they can take out every single memory of that cat. But you know, when you lose memories, you tend to lose the person that you were with those memories. So you know, it tends to really affect the people around them. And we see Aaron try to like figure things out about this institute as he figures things out about himself again, and then things start to happen. This is one of my darker contemporaries for a YA book, primarily because of the situation that happens in this book. Spoilers now. Aaron ends up having gone to the Liteo Institute because of his father's suicide, because his father committed suicide after Aaron comes out as gay. So I believe Aaron, I forget which one he did or which memory he chose, but I think he took out the memories or had them changed of some of the guy he had been currently in love with, and then thus changing kind of what happened to his father and why that happened. And then things happen where Aaron starts to put together the pieces and is later then physically assaulted by his friends for being gay, which then caused a series of problems in his head because he had already gotten the surgery, and he slowly starts to lose his memories of everything and everyone. Pretty hard. I cried reading this book. I think it's a really good book to read if you are in the right headspace for it. If you are not, don't even think about picking up this book. You hear? You hear? Good. But yeah, I will leave my review for this book and any other books down below. If they have trigger warnings, or if I didn't remember the trigger warnings fully in each book that I mention, they will be in those reviews, so feel free to check those out if you are somehow interested in the books that I mentioned, but you're not sure exactly what trigger warnings are there in case I forgot. The next question is My Tears Ricochet, and that is a character death that destroyed you. The book I ended up choosing, or the character, was Patroclus from the Song of Achilles. Again, the Song of Achilles is a retelling of the Achilles myth where we follow Patroclus, who is Achilles' like brother in arms. Has been rumored by, you know, the philosophists? Yeah, the philosophists and other historians and other classists that they were actually lovers and not friends, which I prefer and makes more sense for the entire timeline of Greece. But honestly, it was weird because it was a weird mix of Patroclus' death and Achilles' death that did it for me. But I think what happened to Patroclus was a bit more of a slap in the face because I knew what happened. I have read this myth before. These myths have been embedded into my soul, so it's not news to me that he dies. However, the part that happens and the fact that Achilles literally cuddles his dead body for months because he was like, no, you're coming back to me, kind of hit home. And then the fact that his last thought was Achilles' death, and then like the final, and then you get to watch the rest of like the myth play out through Patroclus's ghost eyes. And the last little bit here on the back, which is the part that kills me, because he's literally watching. Achilles didn't get a chance to watch Patroclus die. They just literally brought his naked body to him and was like, so things happen. But with Patroclus, he gets to watch literally the arrow shoot Achilles in the heart. I need to reread this book, but I don't think I'm in the mental state to like sit there and like read everything and like fall in love and like annotate this book, because I have a second copy and then I can annotate that copy. No, Therese, we're not doing it quite yet. We have a TBR to go through, and we already said that we are going to be rereading through all of Kate Tiernan's books next month to give our little brain, our little pee-pee-poo-poo brain, a nice little reset. No. The next book is Mirrorball, and that is a character that goes under major character development. Now this one took a bit, because there are quite a few characters on these shelves that go through a lot of character development, but I decided to go for something a bit more subtle, and I feel like something that we all can kind of relate at this point, and that is You Asked for Perfect by Laura Silverman. This follows a young senior named Ariel Stone, who has spent a lot of his life being like the perfect child. He's the perfect Jewish kid. He's like first child violinist. He's a volunteer. He thought he's gonna be valedictorian, and then he starts to fail a calculus test and has to ask for help from a very cute boy. Now this is not so much a coming out story, I don't think, from what I recall. I was also kind of sick when I read this, so. But it's not a coming out story because I believe he already knows that he is gay, or he's bi. Yeah. But I think his character development is very subtle and very, I want to say almost poignant, just because he starts to go from this kid who feels like he has to be everything for everyone to trying to piece things together and learn that he has to take a couple steps back from things that he loves to be able to do things that he needs to do, that he has to like, you know, choose between, not choose, but find a nice balance between school and like a social life, and find time to take care of himself, which I think, considering the current events of the world and how we're all just kind of thrown into our homes and we're trying to like be productive and like be humans still, I think this book of like just trying to find that balance of being able to be yourself while also still doing all the things that you love without overstretching yourself out is some interesting character development, and something that we probably all need to learn at some point. I am still learning it, and I'm 24, so. The next book is Seven, and that is my favorite childhood book. And that book, I can't remember a lot of my favorite childhood books, primarily because they all kind of fell apart as we kind of moved from house to house, and I have no idea where they are anymore. RIP. But the one that stands out to me was The Prince Stork. I don't remember who the author is, and I've been trying to find a copy of this book, but it's no longer in print. So I have no recollection of what this is actually about, nor do I think it's really a children's book given the images of heads on pikes. But this is about a young guy who helps this kind of like, what do you call it, a wizard of sorts or a sorcerer help across like a little stream, and he gives him all these like little tidbits and these hints as to how to win over the princess's heart, because the princess is not only the daughter of the king, but also the daughter of a witch, therefore she is very witchy and powerful for herself, which is why she has not been married off yet, because she has these guys do these incredible feats and tasks that often end in them dying. And that's all I can remember about the book. The art style was incredible. I love this book so much, but I have no recollection, and like I'm pretty sure it implies that the marriage and like having sex with the princess somehow subdued her, which I'm not a fan of, but again, I haven't read the book since I was like a wee lass, so I can't really remember the themes of this novel. So the only childhood book that I really remember, because by the time I was like 7 or so, I was reading chapter books already, because, you know, when your girl can read at 12th grade level in 3rd grade. The next song or prompt is August, and that is your favorite summertime read. Now, I did not read this book in the summertime. I read this in the middle of December. But if I had picked this book up when it first came out or was like republished or something, definitely would have read it during the summertime. And that is Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey Mcquisten. This is a new adult contemporary romance following Alex, who is the first son of the president. His mother is the first female president of the United States. And she's currently running for re-election. So what that means is that, you know, the traveling and the pretty things and like looking like prim and proper. And during the royal wedding, Henry, who is like, they don't really know each other, they're just kind of indifferent to each other. Henry kind of like shrugs him off, you know, kind of trying to be like a little bit of a prick. And then Alex ends up getting super drunk, and somehow magically they end up accidentally pushing themselves into the royal wedding cake. Now, to avoid an international incident where they're both like, oh no, they hate each other, the two of them have to do a series of press stunts of them being friends and then falling in love ensues. Now, I know this is a very controversial book. You either love it or you hate it, primarily because of the representation for the British rep in here. So I know that people are like, oh yeah, you either love it or you hate it, but I genuinely enjoyed this book, and I cannot wait for Casey Mcquisten's next book to come out, because like the cover was just released the other day and it's sapphic as hell. So yeah, I really enjoyed this book, and I feel like next summer, you know, when I can travel again and I can picture all these pretty places that I can travel that happen in this book, I can go ahead and bring this book along with me and read it during a summer travel time. But as of right now, it's one of my favorite future summer reads. The next book is This Is Me Trying, and that is a book that always pulls you out of a slump. A lot of books really pull me out of a slump. Really, like, in order to get me out of reading slump, I just have to reread something, and sometimes I don't even finish the book that I am rereading. But that book will probably have to be The Infernal Devices, specifically The Clockwork Angel by Cassandra Clare. This is the first book in the Infernal Devices trilogy, following Tessa Gray, who ends up being kidnapped after she tries to find her brother she travels from the US to the UK and ends up getting kidnapped as she's trying to figure out where the hell her brother went. And then she finds out she's not actually a human, but she's not a shadow hunter either. And it's this beautiful love triangle that I could read for days and days and days. We all know how I feel about this book. I read this probably like once a year. I read it one time as a reread and vlogged most of the experience. Then I reread the first book recently, and I felt like a brand new woman. I was renewed, rejuvenated. All the other books that I can reread have not taken me out of my slump. This one will do the job. The next prompt is Illicit Affairs, another favorite of mine, and that is your guilty pleasure read. Now, if y'all have been following this channel for a hot minute, y'all know what this book is, and no, it is not After, even though it's kind of up there just because it's so bad. It's like watching a train wreck, you just can't stop looking. But this one's gonna be really easy for all you kiddies and biddies at home, and that is The Selection by Kira Cass. This is a YA futuristic contemporary romance novel. I use contemporary very loosely. And it follows America Singer, who just really did not want to be part of the selection, which is basically like it's like the weird Hunger Games and the Bachelorette squished together. And she really just did not want to be part of this thing. She just had a boy at home she wanted to fall in love with. But then events happen. Said boy dumps her. And she ends up throwing her name in just because. And ends up getting picked. And now she has to go with, like, I think 30 other girls? 34 other girls. She's the 35th girl. To see who wins the crown and wins Prince Maxon's heart. We all know why I find this particularly a guilty pleasure read. The writing isn't like top tier. It's not God tier writing, you guys. A lot of the things that America does kind of ticks me off. The third book especially ticked me off after what Maxon did, but we're not going to talk about it. But Prince Maxon as a love interest, very, very, very cute. I say cute because he is like 17 or 16 in the book, and I am a whopping 24. But he is very cute, and he is a very precious love interest. And 10 out of 10, he's like an intelligent himbo. He wants what's best for everyone and tries really hard to do it, but he's also pretty smart in certain aspects of his life. He's a very intelligent himbo, and we stand Prince Maxon in this household. The next one is Mad Woman, and that is your favorite strong female character. I ended up having to go into the reserves for this one just because I could have mentioned a long string of characters that were strong women. But I wanted to go one specifically that I just found particularly strong when I was like 16-ish. And I'm gonna have to go with Cleo from the Balefire Quartet. This is about these two twins, Cleo and Thais, who have been separated at birth, and they find out that they are twins after Thais' father is killed in a car accident, and Thais is sent off to live in New Orleans. Now, the reason why I chose Cleo is just because she's a very no-nonsense girl. She's very straight to the point. She's like 16, so she probably shouldn't be drinking or partying or like doing the things that she's doing. But I like that she's very no-nonsense. I think in the time of like the paranormal romance kind of like whoosh, it was very difficult to find like a strong female character. Cleo owned her sexuality and was like kind of didn't use it as like a weapon, but used it as a way for her to have fun. And as well as the fact that like I said, she's very no-nonsense. When she finds out a guy has been cheating on her, dumped him immediately and never looked back. She's really trying to help her sister out and just tries to make this situation, this very weird situation between the two of them, work. And I really like that about her. And I don't know, I remember being 16 and just being so enamored with Cleo, and now like looking back at it, I can't tell if that's because I thought she was a strong female character or because I wanted to be with Cleo. Maybe that's why. The next one is Epiphany, and that is a character that has been through a lot, and I'm gonna have to go with Mara Dyer from the Mara Dyer trilogy. Yes, the Mara Dyer trilogy. This is a paranormal thriller novel following Mara Dyer after the events of a building that collapsed that ends up killing her best friend and her brother, and I think her boyfriend at the time too. Yeah, and so she ends up having to move schools to avoid the tumultuous kind of like backlash from that situation because she was the only survivor and no one knows how. And she meets a mysterious boy. Now, I chose Mara just because like, when you can't trust your own mind, it's kind of difficult on top of just, like, not being able to trust the surroundings around you. So, she's been through quite a bit. Even in the third book, even though we don't talk about the third book, she's just been through a lot. I'm not saying I want to protect her because she could probably stab me, like, 10 times a Sunday and I'd be okay with it. But she's just been through a lot. The next prompt is Betty, and that is a character that deserved better. And I'm going to have to go with Melinda from Speak by Laurie Halse Anderson. This is lots of trigger warnings here. For sexual assault, suicide, depression, or attempted suicide, depression, anxiety. What else? I think that's it. But this is a young adult contemporary novel following Melinda after the events of her being sexually assaulted at a party. She tries to go to the cops right after it happens. No one really believes her. And because this was the big party before her freshman year and that she got shut down, everyone stopped talking to her. And because of this, she kind of stops talking at all. But she starts to find her voice and a way to start speaking through art when she takes her art class. She just deserved a lot better. Like, I read this book and I cried so many times. Primarily, one, because I do relate to Melinda in some aspect, because I have my own trauma that's very similar to hers, but also not similar, that I still struggle to talk about to this day. But I think that she did deserve a lot better. Not only was she sexually assaulted, but all of her friends stopped talking to her. She finds herself trying to figure out who she is now without really anyone believing in what she's doing. Her grades are dropping, her parents are just freaking out on her. It's just a difficult situation. And all the friends that she tries to make think one thing of her, and it's very, like I said, it's just a very difficult situation for her. But she deserves so much better. The next prompt is Peace, and that is your favorite fictional couple. Bonus points if they went through a lot together. I'm gonna go with my favorite throuple because, like, 10 out of 10, Will, Jem, and Tessa should have ended up in, like, a polyamorous relationship. These guys have been through a lot. They not only went through a love triangle, but losing point of the love triangle and being equally in love with each other. And then the whole, like, you know, Clockwork Army and things happening in the infant. They've been through a lot, so just protect them with everything you have, and I just protect them. And the last prompt is Hoax, and that is a fictional breakup that destroyed you. Again, very difficult. There's quite a bit of fictional breakups in here that, like, look me up. But I'm gonna have to go with Celia and Evelyn from The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. Now, if y'all are gonna say this is a spoiler, this book has been out since, like, what, 2014? But this is a adult historical fiction novels taking place in the golden age of Hollywood, where we follow Evelyn Hugo, who kind of tries to rise her way up to fame, and she tells her story of how she got there through the 7 husbands that she has married, leading up to like the love of her life, which we all know who that is. Celia and Evelyn's multiple breakups in this book broke my heart. Like, how dare they? When sapphics get together, they have to stay together, you know? And then the ending is just not okay, and literally I think about them all the time, and I'm just like, dang, I hope wherever they're at right now, they're happy and together, and nothing in this world can break them apart. But that is it for the Folklore book tag. I didn't tag anyone because we all know how I am with book tags. I seldom ever get tagged, and I seldom ever tag anyone. So if you haven't done this book tag yet and you love Folklore like me, and you want to do this, I technically tag you. But yeah, if you guys have any other like books that you think I should read that would have fit this prompt a lot better, let me know in the comments down below. But until then, hit like, subscribe, comment. All my social media links are down below, as well as any books that I have mentioned that have a review. But until next time, I will talk to you guys everywhere else, and I hope you guys are having a wonderful week. Bye!